Now that we have chosen our topics for our research paper this year, it is time to start doing the research itself. If you look on the home page for Christian Doctrine under Course Overview, now you'll see not only the research paper topic, which you've already turned in, but also the research paper biblical research and theological research. These are worth a lot of points, 30 points apiece. For perspective, the first unit test was worth 100 points. And they're due, November 13th. November 13th is just a little bit before Thanksgiving vacation. So that's Sunday, November 13th, and then we'll have a week of school and then Thanksgiving vacation. I'd like you to turn it in that Sunday, November 13th. I'm probably not going to count it as late if you need that week before Thanksgiving vacation, but please try to get it in before Thanksgiving vacation because I want your vacation to be an actual vacation and I don't want you doing work for me during time that you should be resting and getting a break and spending time with family. All right, how do you do this assignment? Let's start with the biblical research first. Let me open that up. All right, so the biblical research is exactly what it sounds like. What does the Bible say? You're going to turn in two things for what the Bible teaches on your topic. The first thing you're going to turn in on the document is a list of passages on your document. What I would do is I would just go to, oh, it's not going to let me click on it. There, now let me click on it. Okay. I would just go to your Google Drive. Hopefully you have a folder called Doctrine or something. And in your Christian Doctrine folder, I would make a new Google document and I would call it Doctrine Paper Bible Research. So you have Doctrine Paper Bible Research, and again, the first thing you're going to put on this is list of Bible passages on, and you fill in the blank with your topic. I don't know if your topic's marriage, heaven, sin, the human soul, justification, baptism. There's all kinds of topics you could have. Whatever your topic is, the first thing you're going to do is have a list of Bible passages on that topic. You can just go on Google, for example, and just do a search, right? So maybe your search was, what does the Bible say about, or let's do this, list of Bible passages on marriage, right? So you might be able to find this in a search. I like that Open Bible website. There it is, openbible.info. This one literally just gives you exactly what you're looking for, a list. You may not like everything on the list that they put together for you, but a lot of them might be what you were looking for, passages on the topic of marriage, right? So look for passages either this way, or you could just go to Bible Gateway and do a keyword search. What keyword searches would I do for marriage other than marriage or marry or maybe wedding, right? Stuff like that. And you'll try to find as many passages as you can. After you've looked through all those passages, then what I'd like you to do is list them here, right? So you're going to have the passage reference, right? So maybe it was Mark 12:40, right? And after the passage reference, copy and paste in the actual verse. So you'll have the verse right there on your list. And then do the next one, right? So Genesis 3, whatever, right? So you'll have the passage and then you'll have the verse copied and pasted in. Underneath all that, you're going to actually do your exegesis. So here you can type exegetical steps on, and here you're going to type the passage of your choice. Maybe it was this passage, right? But whatever the passage is, put it in this blank right here, exegetical steps on. And then we're going to actually do those steps. So if I go back to the biblical research, the information for those steps is right here in the research paper 2 or paper lesson 2 prompt. Mine jumped down to the bookmark for me. I tried to link it that way, but if it's not jumping down for you, right here, research and bibliography is the bookmark you want. And you're going to do the exegesis. So I would read this stuff. Just read it. You don't have to do anything with it, but it's helpful information. And after you've read it, okay, great. Now it's time to do the exegesis. For the exegesis, I would copy this entire outline, steps 1 through 10. I'd copy the whole thing, steps 1 through 10, and just put that right underneath your exegesis section. Okay, you can worry about changing the font to make it all match later, since this is Arial and this is Calibri, but you can change that later. And then all you're going to do is actually start to fill out these steps. So let me explain what each step is. Biblical and historical setting. Who wrote the book of the Bible and what do we know about it? for what you're dealing with. Here, I would just click on NIV Study Bible. Let's say your passage came from the book of Exodus, right? So here's all the Old Testament books. Here's all the New Testament books, right? Let's say it came from Exodus. So you click on Exodus, all right, scroll down, and here's all this information, right? Here's who wrote the book. Here's what happens in the book, some themes and others that happen in the book. Here's an outline, you'll need that later, and so on, right? So that'll give you information you need for the author, who the intended audience is, and what the purpose of the whole text is, right? Like, what's the point of Exodus? Well, Moses is inspired by God to tell the story of how the Israelites escaped from Egypt, right? So that's the book of Exodus, and it tells of their wandering in the wilderness and God's promises and word to them there. All right, text and translations. This is where you compare your passage in a few different translations. So let's say your passage was Hebrews 9, let's say 11 through 14 or something, right? So that's your passage. For text and translations, you would click on this little button, Add Parallel. Do that twice. And my advice would be use the ESV, maybe use the New American Standard, since that's a very literal translation, and then maybe use the NLT, since that's a pretty well-liked kind of paraphrase-ish translation. And then you just compare, right? How similar or different are they verse by verse? And just take note of any contrast that you think is significant. Okay, that's step 2, text and translations. Step 3, immediate literary context. Again, I would click on this, NIV Study Bible. Go down to your book. So we were dealing with Hebrews, right? It was Hebrews 9, 11 through 13, I think I said. Scroll down and grab the outline. And then I would copy paste this entire outline into that section. So I'd copy it like this, right? And then I'd go to this section. I would just delete all this, right? And I'm going to put that outline in there, right? And then I'm going to highlight where mine comes from, right? Mine came from chapter 9. What was it? I said verses like 11 through 14 or something like that. So I would highlight this because this is the section it came in. And then I'd highlight this because this was the actual verse section. Right? And then what you do is you read your passage and you see how your passage fits in this outline. So you're just going to write a paragraph. My passage is about this. My passage fits within this idea, and this idea fits within the entire outline of the book of Hebrews. So that's what I do for that section, literary outline or literary context. All right, step 4 is immediate historical and cultural context. Here I would look at the Lutheran Study Bible or really any study Bible and just see if there's any information in the footnotes that provides historical or cultural context important to your passage. Sometimes this is a highly relevant step. You don't understand the passage until you learn a little bit about the history and context. Other times it's not that helpful, but you need to check. So check a study Bible and see if it provides anything that helps you understand that passage. All right, word studies. This is where you look at a tool like this. We were dealing with Hebrews 9, I think. Right, and what an interlinear Bible does is it shows you the English. This is in the King James, so it's not as easy to understand, but I could have changed it to New American Standard if I want, and that makes it a little easier to understand. But it compares the English translation to the Greek, and what you can do is you can click on keywords, right? So we were dealing with verse 9 through 11, so maybe I think a key word is, sacrifice. What's the Greek word for sacrifice? Or regulations, or high priest, right? So I can look at what these words are in the Greek. I find out this word sacrifice is thusia, and it's always translated sacrifice. There's no other translation, and it shows up in these places right here. It shows up in Matthew twice, Philippians twice. It shows up in Hebrews 15 times. That's the book I'm dealing with. So I can learn a little bit about how that word is used. That word for, what was it translated? It was translated regulations, is that right? No, maybe it was regulations, right? But it's oh yeah, look at that, it's ordinance in the King James. It was regulations in the New American Standard, but it's dikaiume, right? So this word shows up 10 times in the New Testament, twice in Hebrews, 5 times in Romans. And as I look at some of these places that it shows up, I can learn a little bit about what that word means, right? So I see it's translated in a few different ways. What does this word mean? Okay, so that's called doing a word study. And sometimes you find out that the word in the original language is a little richer and more nuanced than the word in the English, and you can learn a little bit about your passage by looking up the original words. All right, theological context. Does your passage reference any other biblical passage, people, or events, right? In other words, if my passage talks about the Exodus, or talks about animal sacrifices, or it talks about Moses or David or something like that, but I don't know anything about any of those people or events, well, then I'm not going to understand the passage. That important theological context, that name or that event or that thing, is something I need to know about if I'm going to understand my passage, because my passage references it. So that's theological context. That's important. Doctrine just means teaching. So what does your passage actually teach, directly and indirectly? You could just make a bullet point list. Parallel passages. Here, I would just use Bible Gateway again. So you go to Bible Gateway. Hebrews 9, I think I said 11 through 14. You pull that up, click on the cogwheel, and click on cross-references. Cross-references is the same as parallel passages. And all these little capital letters show up in your text. Let me get rid of the lowercase letters. Those are footnotes. Now, wherever you see capital letters in your text, it's telling you the Bible kind of talks this way somewhere else too, right? The blood of goats and calves. So I can click on that and I can go, oh, Hebrews 10 talked that way. By means of his own blood. Oh, Acts 20 talked that way. Or the blood of goats and bulls. Oh, Leviticus 16 talks about that, right? So I can find other places in the Bible that talk that way, and I can read those, and maybe those passages will help me understand my passage. And then finally, what law is in your passage? What gospel is in your passage? Directly, like it's obvious. Indirectly, you had to think about it a little bit. It wasn't as obvious. And then personal application, how it applies to you. All right, so those are the exegetical steps. These are important. Do these thoroughly and refer back to this video if at any point you need a reminder on how to do the step. All right, I got to go quick here. The other thing I want you to do is make another document in your doctrine folder, and you're going to call this one, Doctrine Paper Theological Research. Whoa. Theology research. This is not what does the Bible say. This is what do theologians, pastors, Christians with advanced degrees in theology, what do they say on my topic? And you're going to create an annotated bibliography. All right, so make a document that looks like this. Annotation paragraph. Oops. Oh, it tried to fix it for me. That's cool. Okay, and you really only need two sources for this. Okay, so you're going to have source one. It's going to be formatted, MLA format, right? Like author's last name, comma, first name, name of the source, publication information, that kind of stuff. And then what's your annotation paragraph? It's simply summary of the source, how it helped you understand your topic, and quotes you might use in your paper. This is what you're going to turn in for your theology research. You're going to find some sources. You're going to read them. You're going to summarize what the source said. You're going to explain how it helped you. And you're going to pull quotes. Just literally pull them out of the source, copy, paste, whatever. Put them right here. Put them in quotation marks and get the page number or paragraph number. And then later you won't need to reread the source because you already grabbed everything you needed. So this is what you'll turn in for your annotated bibliography. Where can you find sources? Back to that document with the prompt. If you go to theological research under lesson 2 and click right here, journal articles, this is the archive I would send you to because I know you're not going to get any theological nonsense. This is all going to be vetted, good theology. So let's say your source was your topic was marriage. Okay, I found a couple things on marriage. Let's say your topic was justification, right? Okay, I found some sources on justification, right? And your topic may not show up here on this list, but if it does, check out the things on this list because they might be really helpful to you. All right, that's it for Bible and theology research. Please start spending time on this when you are able. This is due November 13th.